Hi, everybody, and welcome to our second episode of Masterpiece Theater. I do appreciate the response to the first episode. Um, and I do appreciate the understanding that there were some technical issues there. This time, we're doing a figure that's a little bit smaller, probably a little bit easier to handle, tweaked a few things here and there. Uh, but without further ado, the figure we're looking at is the newly released Takara Masterpiece Ironhide. Now, as you can see, this is one of the licensed vehicles. This is from the Nissan line. I'm familiar with. I used to drive a Nissan Altima, and this is the Vanette, the cherry-colored Vanette. And this is what basically used to be the family mobile back in the day. The you had more than two kids, or if you had two kids, you probably needed to get a van or something like that to, carry them all around. If you had a van, you were the guy people called, "Hey, Steve, want to help us move some stuff here?" Because you had that open back. Nowadays, to you younger viewers, the SUV has basically replaced the van. I still see them a lot in my neighborhood because a lot of laborers and companies use them to transport men and goods. But what was interesting about Ironhide, if you go back and look at that original toy, that was the Car Robots line in Japan, which was an offshoot of Diaclone, which was an offshoot of Microman. Um, he didn't look like he did in the cartoon, and and a lot of that had to do with the fact that those robots in the Japanese line were meant to be human controlled. What we considered that toy's face was actually the seat for the little Mike pilot, and on the battle platform there was a little seat there too. You control it, which if you look at it that way, it's a really cool toy. But again, what was on the shelf as Ironhide did not match the Florodairy design. So really starting with Ironhide, Takara has gone ahead and um, having to create a figure. They have the vehicle mode. The vehicle mode was accurate, but basically taking this mode and working into it a robot design that was the creation of animation, that maybe had a little bit of that magic going on. And let me just tell you, they really succeeded. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the toy. Once you open up the package, there are two plastic trays. The main tray holds the Ironhide figure, the sled for the weapons, some of the accessories, and then directly underneath that is the second tray with the additional accessories, um, all of which can peg quite nicely into the sled here. You do notice that one of the blaster pistols is missing. That's because the Ironhide figure does have weapon storage, which I really like because this is, I think, the first time with these smaller vehicle transformers outside of Bumblebee, where, so really Bumblebee and Ironhide, you have this storage here, and the friction's in quite nicely, holds in place. You also have the instructions, which I'm a little disappointed with. With what I call the phase one of the Masterpiece line, which was everything before Masterpiece 10, the instructions were booklets. And, even for a little bit after, really starting with the cars, they switched over to these folded sheets, which are nice. They give you all the details that you need, but it's a little bit of the class is missing. You also have the collector's card right here, which, is fine. The writing's in Japanese. I really don't know much about it. And then this little piece right here, which we'll get into a little bit later. We're going to file that under the you need to read the instructions part of the review because every single reviewer I've seen has missed what that is, and it's clearly shown in the instructions. Moving back to the sled, the weapons do peg in nicely. You can also have the option with the blaster gun or this laser right here, which is based on the laser that was part of the original G1 toy, there is a little bit of a spring hitch up here, much like on the Lamborghini styled cars, that you can slot the weapon in. I have to admit, I am a little disappointed by this laser. If you look in the instructions, they even show it. This round section right here was actually in the cartoon on the side. So while this is a great representation of the original toy, it doesn't capture what was in the cartoon. Now, there is one other accessory being held by the sled here, which I have to admit I'm a little disappointed by. Um, Early reviews showed that this would have treads on it, like or some sort of movable ability, like the original toy. It doesn't, but you have to deal with what you have to deal with. Underneath, right here, pays into the back, is the interchangeable faces. As you might be able to tell, that's the original face because I have the secondary face on. Little lint there. Secondary face on the Ironhide figure, which we'll see in robot mode, which we're going to get to right now. And here's old Ironhide in robot mode. Transformation is fun. After you do it back and forth once or twice, you really get to know it. I think my favorite part is the legs, even though the arm transformation is really fun. I like how the chest here comes together. Articulation, you have ratchets in the shoulders, a single joint in the elbow, wrist swivel, bicep swivel, full hip articulation. Now, some people complain that because of these hip skirts, the hips are limited, which is true. They are limited, but it's Ironhide. He never did ballet. You can there are some skirt panels here that flip up, so you have the forward and back leg. You have nice, tight, neat ratchet joints, swivel at the knees. You have ankle pivot with also some forward and back ankle movement there. And just really a cool looking bot mode. Virtually no kibble on the back. Some people complain about that. I don't understand why. If there's a backpack, they complain. If there isn't, they complain. Um, I like that. Basically, the parts of the van make up Ironhide. Now, we're going to come in and take a look at his head. Now, this is the alternate face expression. This is not what comes shipped on the figure originally. In the instructions, they refer to this as the crying face, and I think by crying they mean battle cry. I like to call this the prime face. You gotta do it with the southern drawl that Peter Cullen could do. Remember, Peter Cullen was Ironhide, so every time you saw Optimus Prime and Ironhide talking, that was Peter Cullen just switching back and forth. That was kind of cool. I don't know if he did it at the same time, but he did do it auditioning for the first Transformers movie, and that's how he got the gig. Now, face swapping, very simple. I'm going to turn the head here, which is on a ball joint. You push on the back of the crest. That will actually free up the face. And I gotta say, this is the easiest face swapping gimmick I can remember. And then what you just go ahead and do, you peg it in, push it back, peg it into the crest, peg it into the face, and there you have the face swap. And yeah, now you have the sullen and grumpy neutral look to Ironhide, I would say. Not as cool as the more expressive, prime face, but I think it works out really well. Now, there is one other gimmick I want to draw attention to, and we're going to do it actually right here while we're zoomed in, because you can get a little bit of a close-up look. Remember this little piece right here? And I talked about it. Well, that actually works in tandem with this accessory. that I'm going to show you right now, this little sensor piece, it's called the utility sensor. I'm just going to first go ahead and pop it in. I'm going to straighten up Ironhide here a little. What you want to do is pull down on the chest here. You're going to open that up, just like so. This little bit is going to slide in, just like that, into the windshield. And then you're gonna go ahead, close up the chest. There is a little tab. I'm not sure if you noticed the tab there. That's basically how you put it in. That's the right side up. There are grooves and cutouts that fit around the various notches here. And then for the sensor, all you do is this one's fairly easy. Oops, I just kind of untransformed the arm there a bit. My mistake. You want to rotate that bicep up so you have the little hole here in the arm. Go ahead, plug that in, and there you go. Now, I would have liked a third head with the lit up eyes, but if you look in the instructions, this is how it goes, and all the other reviewers have missed this step for whatever reason. And I've been looking at it. This comes from the episode, I'm 95% sure, where the Autobots discover dinosaur bones in the ruins where the Ark is. And this leads to the creation of the Dinobots. If you look at the little thing on the chest now, I see a horn and hook. That sort of looks like a Triceratops to me. I mean, a very drawn and animated style Triceratops. And there's Ironhide looking down at you as he's scanning. But I just like how this reminds me of the old Phase 1 Masterpiece figures that they would just, like, one time something appeared, like Prime's axe and Megatron's mace, they throw it in. This is probably the only time you ever saw Ironhide use this sensor. They gave him the blasters. It's just, how many times? I mean, I remember Ironhide just using his fist, but they threw it in, and that's a great bonus, and that makes a great Masterpiece set. Finishing off our look at Ironhide, I just wanted to show off some of the other accessories. I'm not going to go through them individually because, it's very clearly stated in the instructions and, it's been shown before. The blaster fits into his hand quite nicely. All of them do. You have 3. Just make sure when you're pegging it into his hand, you push it all the way in, and make sure you go for the proper slot in his hand, not the slot that's made by the crease in his hand hinge. I did put on the little liquid shooter hand here. That's actually something I remember Ironhide using a lot. And I'm really kind of glad that they released Ironhide because lately with the movies and stuff, Ironhide has this look of like the weapons guy. And while he was always tough and heavily armed, as you can see here, I thought of him more as like the creative, like construction type that he used cement, nitrogen, stuff like that. Like that's why he has the 3 different kinds of liquid shooters because, that's what he used and the various solvents and stuff. The missile launcher here on the back, while featured in an episode that he was flying in, really I think is also another throwback to the original Diaclone toy. I am a little disappointed that you can't have the jetpack plugged in at the same time. And the little thrusters for the jetpack, unfortunately, do not peg in to the various liquid shooters. But all in all, this is a great set. And, pictures just don't do it justice. This is probably not the first time you're going to hear me say that. Really, it's a fun figure, and worth a place in the collection. Well, in a nutshell, that was Masterpiece Ironhide. I got him here in his Jeep, his van mode again, and I have to say, I really like it. I think we're now doing the vehicles, and I mean, in terms of robots in disguise, how much more in disguise can you get than a van? Now, some reviewers have mentioned that they feel the plastic feels thin, possibly cheap in some areas. I don't agree with that. I think there's a little bit of flex involved to, especially in the leg hip area, that you can fold everything into place and have it peg in. Also, some people have mentioned about proportion issues and stuff like that. Um, the best thing I can say is, as I mentioned in the intro, this is a figure that's being made, you, from an established vehicle mode, but a robot mode that was just animation magic. So some concessions have to be made here and there, and let's also be honest, the animation model really wasn't standard through all the episodes of the original G1 cartoon. And for all we know, there could be some Japanese manga or something that showed Ironhide looking a certain way. I think this is the best representation of Ironhide, and let me just say it right now, photos, videos, they don't do this figure justice. I'm sure that's something I've been saying a lot lately, but maybe it's how it was shot. This figure is great in hand. It's really fun to transform. The accessories are plentiful. Um, if not making me scratch my head trying to remember, oh, geez, where'd that come from? What episode was that? I'm really looking forward to Ratchet, which was the Mold Brother. I think that'll be kind of cool to see. And yeah, so for this episode of Masterpiece Theater, I thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.